Some stories aren't just tragedies, they're dissections. They peel back the layers we build around ourselves, that thin skin of civility, and they show you the raw, fragile thing underneath. Today, we're conducting a psychological autopsy of Boy Scout Troop 52. We're going to examine the complete and total implosion of a group of boys on a remote island, and how a man-made plague destroyed not just their bodies, but the very idea of what it means to be human.
This question, really, this is what it's all about. It goes so far beyond the gnawing worms and the physical horror. It sinks deeper into the silent, cold terror of the soul. We're not just looking at what happened. We're looking at that exact moment. The moment a person truly understands that no one is coming to save them. Not from the outside, and certainly not from the monster that's starting to look back at them from inside their own head.
So our examination starts on Falstaff Island. It's a remote chunk of wilderness off the coast of Canada. You know the type of place. It's supposed to be where boys become men, learning about knots and campfires. But Falstaff, it became something else. It became a crucible. A petri dish, really, designed to strip away every single rule they had ever been taught.
And these are our subjects. Before it all went wrong, they were just archetypes you'd see anywhere. You have Kent, the alpha, whose power really just came from his dad being the sheriff. Ephraim, the rebel, who'd do anything for his best friend Max. Max, who was the quiet, steady conscience of the group. Newton, the nerdy, brilliant kid, full of anxiety, but also ideas. And then there was Shelley, the quiet one. The one who was already watching, always waiting for the rules to just go away. These weren't just personalities. They were the fault lines, the cracks that were about to shatter the whole group.
You know, they had this code, the Scout Law, a whole list of virtues meant to build good character. Back on the mainland, these are nice words you put on a plaque, but on Falstaff Island, they became a sick joke. Trustworthy, loyal, these ideas, they just dissolve when you're faced with a hunger that has no bottom. It just goes to show how fast you burn the rulebook when staying alive is the only rule that matters anymore.
Now, the thing that triggered this whole nightmare, it wasn't a freak storm, it wasn't some rabid animal, no. This was designed. It was cooked up in a lab, born from pure human greed and ambition. This was no act of God. This was a business decision that got refined into a weapon.
And this is how it gets to the island. It doesn't arrive in a canister, it just walks out of the trees. A man. Thomas Henry Paget, the hungry man. He stumbles right into their camp, looking like a skeleton, just this walking vessel for the plague, driven by an appetite that's already eating him alive from the inside out. He's the first victim, and he's also the weapon. He is the detonator for everything to come.
And the origin of this thing, it's almost too twisted to believe. It started as a get-rich-quick scheme, a diet pill. The idea was to genetically engineer a tapeworm that would just eat all your extra calories. Simple, right? Except the organism they created was too good at its job, too aggressive. It didn't just eat the host's food, it started eating the host. And when the doctors saw a failure, the military saw a perfect self-consuming bioweapon.
Just listen to how they talked about it. So detached, so clinical. A minute-by-minute description of unbelievable suffering, but it wasn't recorded as a tragedy, it was recorded as data. That grueling detail wasn't a warning, it was a measure of success. This is the kind of cold, bureaucratic horror that set the stage for the absolute nightmare those boys were about to live through.
So you have this parasite, this monster from the outside, but the real collapse, the true implosion, that came from within. Once the only adult was gone, and there was a monster in the woods, the boys didn't band together. They turned on each other. The infection outside just gave the darkness that was already inside them a place to grow.
You know, the first thing to die on that island wasn't a person. It was authority. Scoutmaster Tim Riggs. He was a doctor, their only link to reason and protection, but his own training became his downfall. His curiosity, his need to help and understand, it made him get too close to the stranger. And just like that, he was infected. The protector became the patient, and the chain of command just snapped.
Well, when that vacuum opens up, the oldest things come rushing back in to fill it. Pure animal fear, brute strength, and a very quiet, very patient kind of evil.
Let's look at Kent, the so-called alpha. His whole identity was built on swagger, on being bigger and scarier than everyone else. But the second he gets infected, all that bravado just crumbles into raw animal panic. He doesn't lead, he becomes a tyrant. His strength, his greatest asset, becomes his biggest weakness. His terror makes him sloppy, easy to manipulate. He just becomes a tool for someone far more dangerous.
And that brings us to Shelley. See, for Shelley, the chaos wasn't a nightmare, it was a paradise. The infection didn't create a monster inside him, it just gave the monster that was already there permission to come out and play. The quiet cruelty he used to reserve for small animals, now he could use it on people. While everyone else was falling apart, he was coming alive. He didn't just survive the chaos, he thrived in it. Because for the first time, the world was operating by his rules.
You have to understand, two different horrors were happening at the same time on that island. One was fast and disgusting, the decay of the body. But the other one was slow, quiet, and so much worse. It was the erosion of the soul. And they fed each other in this perfect, horrifying loop.
The physical horror is absolute. The parasite literally rewrites your most basic human instinct, hunger, and turns it against you. Your own body isn't yours anymore. It's occupied territory. You stop being a person and you just become a vessel, a biological factory with one job: consume, reproduce, and spread. It's the total loss of who you are.
And then there's the other decay. There's this one moment, they call it the turtle scene. Two of the boys, Max and Newt, are starving. They try to kill a turtle for food, and it's awful. It's clumsy, it takes forever, it's just agonizing, for the turtle and for them. They do it, but the horror of what they had to become to do it makes the meat impossible to eat. They survived, sure, but they lost a piece of themselves that they would never, ever get back. It's a kind of spiritual pain that no amount of hunger can justify.
So, after the autopsy is done, what's the official cause of death? The parasite was the weapon, sure, but it wasn't the real killer. The final verdict on Falstaff Island is a damning indictment of a system that views human beings as nothing more than acceptable losses. And the final report, it's just so clinical, so bleak. The Scoutmaster is killed by a random act of nature. The boys, they're killed by each other or by themselves. And Newt, the smart one, the one who actually makes it off the island, is immediately executed by a military sniper, just cleaning up the evidence. Only Max makes it out alive. But he's not a hero, he's a specimen. A walking, breathing archive of trauma. Because the true monsters, they were never on the island. They were in sterile labs and quiet boardrooms. Dr. Clive Edgerton, who saw human agony as just another data point, and the military that sealed off the island, not to save the children, but to observe them. The boys of Troop 52 weren't just test subjects, they were sacrifices, laid on the altar of weapon development. And so we're left with this. The tapeworm was contained. It never left Falstaff Island. But the experiment proved something far more terrifying. It proved that the veneer of civilization we wear is paper-thin, that the beast inside us is always there, just waiting, and that the most monstrous acts in human history are often the ones that are sanctioned and documented and justified by men in suits. The parasite is gone, but that darkness, can you ever really quarantine that?